Friends, before we get to the good stuff, it is crucial to understand that trading is risky. Understand that the people we speak with have been doing this for years and have put countless hours into honing their craft. These are the people on the other side of your trades. So please, we will not give you buy or sell recommendations, and this video should not be mistaken as financial advice. Always do your own research and never trade with money you cannot afford to lose. Now let's meet our guest today. All right, so today we have Dex, or Day Trader Dex, on Twitter. Dex is a six-figure trader, netting 163,000 last year, sitting at about 160,000 in profits as of August 22nd, 2023, which is when we're recording this now. He has a 53% win rate, a 1.9 to 1 profit loss ratio, and a 2.39 profit factor. This year he's taken around 16,000 trades. So Dex, thank you for coming on the podcast, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to share my story.
Absolutely. So you told me that you started researching day trading about 4 years ago, before going full time only 1 year later, in January of 2021. What led you to day trading in the first place?
So let me go back to 2018, which was 5 years ago. My buddy in college told me to download Robinhood. So I downloaded Robinhood and I funded it with $200. And I bought stocks like Intel, Ford, anything I could buy with that $200 account.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat in those for like a week and they weren't really doing anything. I was up like maybe $1. So I'm like, why am I buying these $40 stocks? And I was researching and I found these 40-cent stocks and I'm like, okay, this is more of me. So I bought this one stock, Magna, and I was looking back at its history and I saw that at one point it was $2,000 and I'm like, it's 40 cents right now. What if it ever got back to that? I would make thousands of dollars. So I bought Magna, MNGA, and I woke up a couple days later and I was up 100% on it. And I'm like, this is awesome. I just made $200 overnight. Like, that's crazy. And I was super excited in class. I woke up the next day and I was down 50% on that same stock. So I'm like, what just happened? Turns out they just announced a reverse split, which at the time I had no idea what a reverse split even was. I'm like, why am I down 50% on this?
Right.
And that's when I found out that's why Robinhood was showing that it was $2,000 at one point, because it never actually was. That's just on a split adjusted basis.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I learned about reverse splits. So I didn't really touch stocks for a while, and come to 2019, all the weed stocks started going crazy. So I refunded my account with $1,100, and I put it all in Aurora Cannabis, which is ACB. And I let that sit for a couple months, and I ended up losing like 40% on that. So I was down to like $750 by September of that year. And I'm like, all right, I need to like actually start teaching myself how to do this, or just delete the app. So I decided to teach myself how to day trade. I did what everyone else does. I went on Google, YouTube. I Googled like, what is a candlestick? What is a chart pattern? What's a bullish chart pattern? What's a bearish chart pattern? And I found all these people on YouTube, like Ricky Gutierrez, Ross Cameron, aka Warrior Trading, Cam the Man. And what stuck with me was Cam the Man was doing a 1,000 to 1 million account challenge at the time. I'm like, there's no way this guy actually does this. And turns out like he got to over PDT within like 2 months. I'm like, that's insane. And it just took off from there. And I'm like, this is possible. So I joined his Discord, which was Normac Newell Trading, and I found all these other Discords. I found Sapphire, I found Atlas, I found Royalty, which was Trader King Eric, his Discord. And from there, I created my own Twitter account, Um, I found Zach Morris. I found Ultra, AC Slater, aka Brad Mullins, Incredible Bob. I found all these guys who had a ton of followers. So I'm like, all right, they must be doing something right, right? So I kind of just started following them around and following them into trades. And my parents at that time were like, all right, you like have to get a job because obviously this isn't working. I was like on the downhill. You know, I went from $750 that I had after I sold all the weed stocks down to $150 by the start of 2020. So here we are in 2020. I put another $100 into my account. So I had $250, right? And I flipped that into 1.2K in a month and a half, just following these guys, following their trades. I'm like, this is crazy. You know, like,
This is through, sorry, you're following Zach Morris at this point?
so at this point, I'm in Atlas. I
Yep.
actually somehow got a roll, like a lower down roll. I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I had a roll. So I'm like, that actually kind of motivated me to actually figure out what I'm doing and try
Mhm.
and help other people, even though I needed help myself. But I'm following trades from like Zach, from Ultra, from PJ, from all these guys, and I'm making money doing it. So I'm like, okay, this is insane. Like this is actually working now after having failed for like a year and a half prior to that.
Yep.
And then came the Robinhood crash. So I was doing all this on Robinhood, right? And March, I forget if it was March 1st or March 2nd, Robinhood was just completely down the entire day.
Mm.
And you couldn't exit your trades, you couldn't do anything really. So I'm like, all right, I need to get off Robinhood. And I downloaded Webull and I created a cash account. So I went from a margin account to a cash account because I figured at that point I was at $1,200. My strategy for the cash account was splitting my funds in two. So I would trade half my funds one day, half my funds the next day. And then that following day, the funds from the first day would settle. So I'd be able to use those again. So that was kind of my strategy with the cash account. And as we know, in 2020, we had all of the COVID craze and all these penny stocks went crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, you would wake up and there are 5, 10 PRs just mentioning COVID and they would shoot up 100%. Super unrealistic, but I got really lucky being like starting in that time period where things went crazy. I ended up turning the $1,200 into 15K by September of that year.
Wow.
And that's when I kind of confronted my parents again. And keep in mind, I was working at Michael's, the arts and crafts store. I was working an overnight job. So I started work at like 1 o'clock in the morning and I went until 9 o'clock in the morning. And it was probably the best decision I ever made because that gave me all day to just focus on trading. And as you know, screen time is the best thing you could do. And that's why a lot of people fail because they don't have the time to be in front of the screens watching and learning from the level two, the charts, and how this whole thing works.
Yep.
So I would put half my account in these tickers that these guys are mentioning, and they would go. They get like a COVID PR. They would do like their research. They'd be like, I think this stock is COVID related, and they could drop a PR any day. So I'd hop in, and I'd be like, okay, and they would go up, and yeah, I flipped that into 15K. I graduated college, and so I had to talk with my parents, and I said, "Listen, this is going like really well. Um, all I need to do at this point is just get my account over PDT, right? So I'm still stuck with the cash account.
Yep.
So I asked them for a 10K loan. They ended up giving it to me, and I ended up paying them back that loan in 2 months. And I had like a really good first few months being over PDT. And I'm like, wow, I can like actually do this stuff. So I quit Michaels, and here we are in 2021. I just quit Michaels, and my goal for this year, first year full-time trading, is 50K. I graduated college, and I graduated with a CS degree. And I'm like, okay, if I were in the industry, I'd probably be making, let's say, 60K my first year. So I'd say 50K is a fair goal
Hmm.
for being on my own trading. I joined Investors Underground, which is Nate's group chat, and I don't usually like paid groups, but I kind of was following Nate for a while before that, and I'm like, this guy literally knows exactly what a stock's gonna do at any point in time. Like he's always right. That's
I know.
insane.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm still like amazed at what he does. Uh, but so 2021, I was full time. My first 4 months, I only made 16K, which is like 4K a month, which I'm on track for my goal, but I wanted it to be more. But I'm
Yeah.
happy with what I made. Um, Early 2021, I left Atlas when like I actually kind of got an understanding of what was going on and like
What they were
what they
doing.
do. Yeah, exactly. Because like first year, I literally just found out what the stock was like.
Right. But
um,
were you still making money on their calls at that point? Because I mean, even if you
so
know what they're doing, I mean, that can still be profitable because sure they're pumping it, but if you can get
I,
in as they're pumping it, then or scalp it, then I
I
mean,
I definitely had the chat up on my screens
yeah,
just because like you want to know like okay, why is this stock randomly ripping 50% or 100%? Like what is going on? And you want to have that as like it was like my scanner almost.
yeah,
So I did keep Atlas up. I obviously profited on whatever they were posting. I wasn't shorting at the time, so it was all longs. So it was more of like, could I get in time and like, or could I catch a pullback? Where I'd actually, at one point, I was trying to time their tweets. I'm like, all right, he hasn't tweeted about this stock in 20 minutes and it's on a good pullback. He's probably about to tweet it again. So that
that's
would kind of
smart.
my strategy for a little bit. But then that wasn't really working. Like they started tweeting these super low float, like stocks that had no liquidity in them. And they would tweet, and it actually at one point they would tweet and they would go down. Where like it would do a little pop and then just crash even further. And I lost a lot of money that way. So I'm like, all right, I need to like not start like stop following these guys because it's just not working out.
Right.
So I left Atlas, but I kept it open on my screens just to know why things were moving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I found Sundial, which was so as we know, early 2021, there was not a single stock below $1, right? It was insane. I've never seen it before. And this is my first penny stock that I'm actually trading, other than that one in 2018 Magna. Like this is the first penny stock I'm trading. So I'm playing around and I'm like, okay, it's a weed stock. So I pulled up Tilray, another weed stock that like I knew all the other weed stocks followed. So I had Tilray, Sundial, and Spy up on my screens. And what would happen is Spy would pop up, then Tilray would pop up, and then Sundial would pop up, and the same thing the other way around. So I'm like, okay, this is really easy. Like this is almost too easy. And that's where I kind of created my scalping strategy from Sundial. And I made 50K on Sundial just that second half of 2021. So as you recall, the first 4 months, I only made 16K total.
Yeah.
And I found Sundial and I created the scalping strategy. And I made 50K the rest of the year in Sundial, just Sundial alone. And I actually had all green days from May to December,
Wow.
which was insane. It remains my longest green streak. And that's just because I traded Sundial every single day. I think the market cap of Sundial was like 3-4 billion, which was
Right.
insane. It had like billions of shares outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why this strategy kind of worked. Um, I had my record day in October, which remains my record day of 7K, and that wasn't Sundial. That was another penny stock, METX. So I kind of knew at that point that this strategy doesn't just work for Sundial, and I can use it on other penny tickers. I ended up making 13K that week, which remains my best week to this day. And I'm like, wow, like things are starting to take off. But reality, they weren't. I just kind of got lucky, I guess, that day. Because from then on, I just kind of went back to like $400, $500 days, like just kind of, and I never really got back up to that 3, 4, 5,000, $6,000 day until this year. But yeah, so let's go back to end of 2021, 2022. Sundial then did a reverse split, and I was concerned. I was like, okay, this is the stock that I was trading for almost a year now, and this is basically what my whole strategy was based off of, this one stock.
Right. And
like
those base hits, you know, taking $400, $500 a day.
That's what I was doing.
Is that all from Sundial?
Yeah.
Okay.
All from Sundial. I mean, I traded a couple other stocks, but most of the profits were from Sundial. My first year trading, so 2021 came to an end. My goal was 50K. I ended up making 100K that year. And the first half of the year, I think I only made like 28K. So it was really that second half of the year when I found that strategy and Sundial and all that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So 2022 came, Sundial did the reverse split, and obviously I was going to stick with pennies and kind of use that strategy on any other pennies tickers. So I did that, and it ended up working out really well. At this time, I'm still on Webull. I had actually converted it from a cash account to a margin account when I broke PDT. Obviously, I don't really want to have a cash account over PDT because then you're back to those restrictions. But yeah, I was trading on Robinhood, and I'm kind of getting into shorting at the time. But Webull doesn't really allow you to short that many tickers, especially those below $1. So I would kind of just hop in, see if it's shortable. If it's not, then like can't short it.
Yep.
So I was mostly long all of 2022 and beginning of 2023, mostly long until March when I decided I need to start shorting. You know, I feel like I'm missing out on half of my profits just by going long side when I could be following it on the downside as well. So 2023, I closed my Webull account and I funded my Thinkorswim account, which I always had. I always use that for charts. And I began shorting on Thinkorswim. And now here we are today.
And do you find that there's a decent amount of availability for shorts, especially on like the pennies and Thinkorswim?
On Thinkorswim, I'll get the alert. The stock is not shortable. And I'll just kind of move on to the next ticker.
Yep.
But there's definitely shortable tickers and not shortable tickers. And yeah, it's annoying when you're like, oh, this is obviously about to crash right here, and you hit it short. And Thinkorswim's like, oh, this ticker's not available for shorting at the time. I'm like, ah.
Right. Are you part of the hard to borrow program with
them?
them?
I was about to say that there is a hard to borrow program with Thinkorswim. I found out this year. Snacks actually told me. And I'm like, oh, why isn't that auto enrolled? Like,
right.
So I enrolled in that, and it helped out a lot. But there's still those tickers that are unavailable to short. But for the most part, there's plenty to trade every day, long, short. So I'm not really concerned and looking to get on another platform right away. But
yeah. So explain to the viewers, because I don't think anybody's heard of, or a lot of people haven't heard of this hard to borrow program, but like Thinkorswim offers this program where stocks that normally wouldn't be shortable are now shortable, does it cost anything to borrow those shares to short?
It does cost something, but it's like, so I usually short with 10K shares max, really. And I'll go in and out all day and literally only rack up like $5 in hard to borrow fees. So it's,
So
again,
it's so negligible.
I don't really know why it's a thing and why it's not like auto included,
Yeah.
why you're not auto enrolled in the hard to borrow program with them. But
Yeah, because I saw you played MULN today, and I can't locate shares of that. But I'm also not in the hard to borrow program, but I would have loved to short that stock this morning.
right.
But you also have to call them, right? Or reach out to support or something
Yeah, I called
to
them
actually
and
locate them.
literally just say, "Hey, I have this account and I'm looking to enroll in your hard to borrow program." And they'll say, "Okay, like give me your account number," and give them your account number, and the next day you're enrolled.
Okay, and then you don't
I
have
think
to.
there are requirements. I don't know the exact requirements. I know it used to be you have to have a 100K account, but it's not that anymore. I don't
Gotcha,
know the requirements right now, but
gotcha.
I'm sure there are some. My account I keep at 75K just because shorting pennies takes up a lot of buying power because of the margin requirements.
Yep.
So I'll short 20K shares and that'll use 40K of my buying power or 20K dollars, and that'll use 40K buying power.
When you're playing these short or you're following a ticker that's kind of like trading against the SPY, are you holding these things for a larger move or a long time, or is it in and out, in and out? Because it looks like you have a lot of trades. I mean, 16,000 trades a year is not a small amount of trades.
Yeah, so I trade I try to keep it between 50 and 100 trades per day. But I do try and hold for longer periods of time, but it's hard because I see profits and I want to take profits. You know, the amount of times where I've gone up $400 just for it to do the big red 10% candle and then there go all your profits. It's just happened too many times. And that's kind of also why I created the scalping strategy, because I can just get in, out when as soon as it goes out, and then hop back in on the pullback and get out and hop back in, get out all day long up until TD limits me at 390 orders. But
Right.
I don't hit that. I don't hit that often.
Gotcha. And from your Twitter, I mean, it sounds like you do play a bit of like momentum pennies if there is a momentum penny that's moving that day.
Yeah.
But you also have. It sounds like you're doing a lot of research, maybe even the night before, looking at trend lines and pennies that have moved in prior days that have had volume and stuff.
Right,
Um,
right.
what kind of goes
So
into like building that watch list for you?
so every night I go through I have a scanner that basically tells me what stocks have been up. I think I have it at 20% over the past 5 days. So that's basically what's moving that week is what this scanner is saying, like what's up 20% plus in the past 5 days. So I'll go through that scanner. I have a couple other scanners I look at night. And I basically look for tickers that have gone up, obviously 20% on heavy volume, and they're holding that price, but liquidity has faded. So that's a liquidity trap right there. You know, let's say someone's short like a pretty big size and the stock is holding in price and they don't have the liquidity to exit and it starts moving up, then that person is, you're looking at a short squeeze based on low liquidity. And usually, as it's going up, the liquidity will come back and it'll make its move either up or down. And that goes either way. You know, you have someone who's long a bunch of shares and the stock starts fading down on low liquidity, then they're trapped in their long and they're going to get squeezed the other way.
So you're looking for liquidity traps, or are you looking for like trend line breaks and stuff
Basically,
like that?
when I'm looking at daily charts, I'm looking more at liquidity traps, but I'm also looking for obviously the pennants, these are more like intraday trading, the pennants, the ascending triangles, the descending triangles, like all these bullish bearish setups that I can trade the next day. I'm kind of preparing myself in that sense.
I'm curious
Um,
because one thing that I've seen in Pennyland specifically is it seems like the ascending triangles work better than any other setup. They work better than when I see them on stocks above a dollar. And it just seems like every ascending triangle just breaks in the direction that you'd expect. There's a lot less. Maybe they fake out, but
right,
they always give like an initial move that's like scalpable.
right where you get above a dollar and you get that ascending triangle and it'll break out, but it'll completely fail
Right.
and I think I bought what was it? It was CEI one morning at a dollar. I bought it at a dollar. It was kind of testing that dollar resistance level for a while and it broke and it hit like 103 and then it just immediately pulled all the way down to like 92 cents
Oh,
and I started the morning like super red. But
that's
that's that's also kind of why I trade mostly pennies is because of spread. And the spread on pennies goes down to 100th of a cent. So instead of buying a ticker at $1.01 and the bid is at a dollar, whereas if you bought 10K, so let's say you bought 10K shares at $1.01 and it didn't go up at all. You have to sell unless you put in a limit at $1.01 and that gets filled. You have to sell at a dollar and boom, you're already down $100. Versus if you bought a penny stock at 92 cents and 90, we'll say 92.50, 0.9250, and the bid is at 0.9249, you sell that, you're only losing a dollar on that one trade. It's just the risk reward is really good with pennies, and I know you know that. And that's why I trade pennies for the most part. I try to keep it above a dollar sometimes. You know, I don't want to like completely ignore the above dollar stocks. So I'll try and hop in and keep myself like kind of in the loop there. I don't want to like, because, you know, early 2021, there was no penny stock. So I was relying on solely above dollar stocks and I was doing like, okay, I was profitable. So I didn't want to really like lose all that. So
yep.
I kind of kept myself in the loop with those above dollar stocks, but they're definitely a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, they are. I mean, what you're talking about with the spread is what I figured out this February, and it really is a different ball game. I mean, when you talk about the spread, and it's literally 100 times. I think it's 100 times like more condensed than if you were trading a stock that's above a dollar. So you literally have 100, and now it depends. Not every stock is going to have like that 0.0001 spread,
Right.
but even if it has a 0.001 spread, that's still 10 times better than the spread on a stock that's above a dollar. I think
Right,
the issue
exactly.
is liquidity. Maybe you can't get as much size on a sub dollar stock. There's not as much dollar volume traded, but
Yeah,
like you said, the risk reward is just it's incredible on the pennies.
it really is. So let me take you through like a day in my life.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So I wake up at 8 a.m. I try to get down to the screens by 8:30. I'm kind of just reviewing the gapper list. From there, you could tell whether it's going to be a hot day or not, which is extremely important. Just to figure out whether you should be like on edge, hopping into a bunch of stuff off open, or just kind of sitting back and waiting for things to play out. Um, so I run down the gapper list. I switch that scanner to my intraday scanner. My intraday scanner, I am looking for stocks that are within 5% of their hourly high, right? So those are kind of stocks that are consolidating and looking to break that hourly high. And that's good for longs, and that's also good for shorts because let's say it does break that hourly high long ways, I hop in long and I scalp it long. But also long setups or failed long setups are the best shorts. You know, it's a bunch of people hopping in long and then all of a sudden it fails and that's where you hop in short. And that's my favorite short setup is just a failed long setup. I usually trade until 4 every day. So I usually don't trade pre-market, but I'll trade 9:30 to 4 every day. My screens, I have actually 15 different tickers up at once, which is crazy, but I don't look at all of them, but I do reference all of them and I'll continuously update them to new tickers. You know, like, okay, a bunch of these are moving today, so I'm going to put all these on this screen. These are the ones that I was watching yesterday that haven't made a move yet. Those are on this screen. I have 4 screens. My main screen, I have the 1 minute chart, and then below that, I have the daily chart. I always like to reference the daily chart when trading just to see where it's at. After 4 p.m., I usually go to the gym, and from then on, I have whatever for the rest of the day, you know, the freedom. I make sure I always have time to scan for daily charts at night just to prep myself for the next day.
So what scanner do you use that is able to, like, you know, look at the prior 1 hour high and get a percentage away from that?
It's just Thinkorswim watchlist scanner that I created.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't know if you know this, but they obviously don't update right away. They'll update, I don't really know when, like every 2, 3 minutes, they'll refresh the list, which is all I really need. I know a lot of people use trade ideas, and I use trade ideas for a little bit, but I don't know. I can't. I like Thinkorswim because I could just drag the stock over to a sell really quick and look at it that way.
Yep.
And I'll just run down the scanner, dragging different stocks all day long, looking for one that I like. I like the setup. I like the spread. Do it that way versus trade ideas where you'd have to type in the stock yourself.
Right. Yeah, I have like large
I
cap
don't know,
scans.
simplicity.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's nice being able to just, you could use the arrow keys too to just go down the list and you can link it with
Exactly.
with a
Yeah.
chart. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really pay for subscriptions. My only I used to pay for scans, but the thing with scans is so the news would drop at 8 and at like 8:00.30 will say that's when all the 8 a.m. PRs will come onto my scans. And I'm like, what is this? I just missed 30 seconds and these stocks are already up 40%. So I tried talking to them about it and they just didn't help. So I just stopped my subscription there. I only pay for Trader Sync. That's my only subscription. It's a trading journal, and I think it's really good to have. I think it's really good to look over your trades, to look at all your stats, your performances, and it just kind of encourages you to be better.
Yep.
Yeah. I've been looking at my win percentage this year, which obviously, let's see, over my full-time day trading career, it's at 53%, right? So that means 40, I think I saw 40% were losses and the other percent were break even. So that means 40% of my trades I'm losing on. But that doesn't really matter to me because as long as my winners are much bigger than my losers, which my profit factor was 1.9 to 1, which means my winners are just about 2 times greater than my losers. So as long as that stays where it is, you don't need that crazy high win percentage where you're winning every trade because I'm placing so many trades versus if you're placing 1 to 2 trades a day, you know, you want that winning percentage to be at least 50% or you lost on both of those trades. Right?
Right.
So those
And
people trading 1 or 2 trades per day, they need that higher win percentage versus people like me who are scalping 100 trades a day. You know, I only need 53 of those trades to be profitable as long as they overpower the losers.
right. I mean, your profit factor, really, it's only like 35% that you actually need to win, and then you'd be like break even. I mean,
Right.
because you're winning so much more on your winners. And I mean, someone who's doing it on a daily time frame could do that too. They could have 30% winners, but the winners just have to be huge. You have
Right.
to win big, lose small, right? That's the name of the game.
Exactly. Exactly.
So with all your monitors and all your charts that you have up, do you ever get overwhelmed? Do you have days where everything's just going nuts and you're like, what do I even focus on? You know, everything's moving, and what do I trade, you know?
Yeah, those crazy days where like everything's moving at once. It's kind of hard to focus on one. And I'll actually feel like I'm missing a whole bunch just by having so many uh cells up at once, so many charts up. Where like this one just took off, and then I start focusing on that one, and this other one takes off, and it's definitely overwhelming at times, but it helps a lot during the slow days, where like you're searching everywhere for something to trade, just having eyes on 15 different tickers at once, and you're like, okay, like that one just got a bid,
Yep.
so I'm gonna watch that one, and then it does help a lot during the slow days. So there's negatives during the crazy days, but
How many
you know,
monitors do you have for
I
all that?
have I have four monitors, and then I have my laptop and a portable monitor attached to that. But that one's just basically for Twitter.
Gotcha.
I'll just look at tweets on those two on the laptop and the portable monitor.
Yep.
Everything else is all Thinkorswim charts. I always keep the S&P 500 up. Uh, Other things like crude oil, I'll always keep up. Bitcoin. I have my little section on my screens for all these indexes just to keep watch there. This way, if I see CEI is going crazy and I check oil and oil's going crazy, I'm like, okay, that's why. Things like that. Or if the market's pulling and I'm wondering why all these stocks are pulling, that's why. I think you should always have like an overall market indicator up as you're trading. I think that's a really good thing to watch as you place your trades.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've heard of people using SPY, but and crude does have a fairly significant, depending on the environment, impact on the SPY and maybe some other tickers, especially if
Right,
you're
exactly.
watching tickers like CEI, any energy tickers,
Yep.
stuff like that.
Especially back in like 2020, 2021, when you had all these sectors. Everything was in a sector, and all these sectors would go at once, and you'd have all these sympathies
Mm-hmm.
going crazy.
Yep. Yeah, beginning of 2022, you had uh, Russia invading Ukraine, and you had all the
Yep.
energy tickers going
All,
nuts then.
yep. All the defense stocks going crazy.
Yep. Yep.
There's always a current event that really kickstarts the craze, in these stocks.
Are there any stocks that, like, once they get volume, so for an example, like MULN, it just always has volume. It seems like every day it's
Mhm.
moving. Are those tickers going to be on your watch list, and do you find that tickers like that trade with the SPY, or do they kind of just do their own thing?
Um, they they definitely do trade with the SPY, but there's a point where like they do their own thing, like MULN today just completely crashed, and at that point it's gonna do its own thing. It's not really gonna trade with SPY versus if it were up like a percent or so and it was kind of not really moving too much, it's gonna follow SPY more there versus if
Mm,
it's already decided its trend and which way it's gonna go. It's probably gonna continue on that trend. And
yep.
MULN today, um, so yeah, I shorted it off open, but it hit 10% really quick, and when a stock goes down 10%, it becomes short sale restricted, which at that point, if you're gonna short it, you need to fill yourself on the ask, which is super, super annoying. So I kind of avoid shorting them once they get to that point. Um, so I really only made money shorting it off open, and then I kind of just let it go for the rest of the day. I longed it a couple times, but I never really thought about shorting it again. On my tickers, I have an indicator that tells me whether it's short sale restricted or not. It's basically if it's been down 10% either today or yesterday. So yesterday's going to carry over today. So tomorrow it will be short sale restricted. And then if it doesn't go down 10% tomorrow, then it comes off that list and you're able to short it again to the bid, which all my orders are pretty much market orders. I don't really place limit orders. I think that's for pre-market and I don't really trade pre-market. But I also know a lot of people who are successful placing limit orders, but I prefer to just get in and get out and not have to wait to get filled.
So for short sale restriction, if it closes above 10% down, it'll still be short sale restricted the next day?
It will still be short sale restricted once it hits that 10%. Once it goes down 10% for the day, it will then be short sale restricted that day and the next day.
Okay. That's good information.
Super annoying. It's like PDT all over again.
Yeah. Do you find that like the level 2 changes, like the trading those stocks, does it become easier to long those stocks once they're SSR?
So once they go SSR, you'll see all the asks just start building and building, like, so we'll say it's at a breakout point and it's about to break out, and then all of a sudden a big ask comes in and everyone's like, oh, like we got to get out now, and everyone starts selling, and you'll start to see this massive ask wall build and build and build, and that's all the people trying to short it, but they have to get filled on the ask. So it'll just kind of walk it down like that. So I'll kind of wait, and I'll wait till that massive wall kind of gets chipped away, if it gets chipped away, and sometimes I'll enter that way on the long side. But other than that, I don't really touch stocks short that are short sale restricted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. That's one of my. It depends on the stock. Like it has to have some good range, but that's definitely one of my more favorable setups when you get the big ask walls and then they like step down with price, because you have like really good risk reward if you actually catch the bottom and you see the shift.
Oh yeah,
you got it.
And once they break that wall, they'll shoot up like crazy.
Yeah,
up into the next resistance level or the next big wall that's up there.
Right, because everybody who just got filled short is panicking and they're trying to buy the ass, so it's just mass run for the exits.
Exactly.
Do you have any trading rules that you follow yourself?
I don't let my trades go red. So if I'll hop in.
Clearly.
If it goes against me, then I'm out. I don't see the logic behind seeing what it'll do or things like that. If I hop in and I'm expecting it to go up and it doesn't go up, I'm out. But I just don't see the logic behind sitting in it unless there's a clear support level and you missed buying at that support level and you're kind of chasing it up a little bit. That's the only reason I would consider letting a trade go a little bit red just down to that support level. Having like a risk level, I'm risking off this level. But if you're buying a trade and it doesn't do what you expect it to do, like why are you gonna sit in that trade? I don't know. That's just my logic.
And you hear a lot of great traders say the same thing. The best trades, they work right away.
Right.
And when you have such conviction, you're getting in at the right spots, like you are, it should work right away. You should never be red on the trade.
Right. And I think my trading strategy of just scalping a bunch of different tickers all day is, I think, really good for like learning the level 2, learning what certain tickers do at certain levels, how the level 2 looks before things are about to break out.
Yep.
Things like that. You see that happen over and over and over again, and you're involved in it and you're learning, and I think it's a really good way to learn, but it's also like if you don't know what you're doing, I think it would be a really good way to learn in a paper account if you didn't know what you were doing, but I never really paper traded. just because there's not that emotion that you get from using real money,
Hmm.
and there's not that impact you get from, buying 10K shares and then you take out the ESC yourself or something. When you're paper trading, that's just an invisible trade that's just going through and it'll get filled no matter what. And
That's a good point. I mean, that actually really affects your strategy. I mean, something that works with real money might actually not work with paper because you buy 10,000 shares, you might
right,
kick off the move, right? You paper trade that, nobody knows that someone's trying to buy 10,000 shares, nobody cares, the stock doesn't move.
right. It's not a real order that went through.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So no other trading rules on your part, like max loss or just mentally, if you're not feeling right or anything like that.
So I don't really have a max loss. I've been down like 1,500 on the day, and at that point, I don't think you should stop trading. I think you should definitely get up and walk away and kind of clear your mind because it really does do something. You're sitting there, you're all emotional, you're trading with those emotions, and if you just get up and walk away and come back to the screens with a fresh mind, I think you can really flip your day around. And like I said, I've been down 1,500 on the day, and I've gotten that back to like down 400. A couple weeks ago, I was down, I think it was WAVD. I was down like 1,100 just on that one stock. I got up, I walked away, and I ended up being up like a grand for the day at the end of the day.
Hmm.
So like I don't really agree with stop, like unless you're like completely on a downward spiral and like there's no way you can get your emotions under control. At that point, yeah, you should stop trading for the day. But if you can walk away, go for a walk, go step outside. I like to go for drives, and just clear your mind and come back to the screens with a fresh mind. I think there's there's really no reason you should end your day down.
Right. Because
There's still hours left in the day with plenty of opportunity. It's just in your head that you can't do it, but you can do it. You know?
right, and that's a great point. I mean, is it your edge is gone, or is it because you're emotionally trading? And if
Right.
it's the emotions, then yeah, you walk away, and your edge is still there when you come back. If it's not, then don't
Exactly.
trade. But I think
Yeah,
that's a great point.
emotions can definitely get the best of you, and
Absolutely.
you just can't let them. And that's part of my Discord name being Dexter is like I had just finished watching Dexter. I'm like, okay, everyone else is kind of using an alias as their name, so I'm gonna go ahead and use an alias as my name. So I'm gonna be Dexter, who has no emotion, and and that's how you got to be trading, no emotion.
Yeah,
You lose $400, you know, you do a little of this, you flip off the screens, and then you get back to it.
that's right.
You forget that it happened, on to the next trade.
So how has day trading changed your life? I mean, you went to college, you got a degree, a highly sought after degree in CS. I mean, you make good money in that field, but you had immediate success in day trading.
Yeah, so yeah, and I had to tell my dad, who also graduated with a CS degree and is in the computer science field, that I didn't really want to work a 9 to 5 like everybody else. I didn't want to commute to New York City and get home at 8 o'clock at night just to do it all over again the next day. And I think that really, really motivated me to just kind of, I always knew, I mean, I'm just saying this, but I feel like I always knew that I wasn't really going to be working a regular 9 to 5 ever since I started college, just because I hated the idea of it. And I didn't really want to do that, but everyone else was getting degrees. And I'm like, all right, I got to do college. I got to get a degree. And then I have something to fall back on if this didn't work out.
Hmm.
So tell him my dad that I wasn't going to start looking for jobs once I graduated college, and instead I was gonna try out trading. It was kind of tough, but he was kind of cool with it, and it was like it's better to do it now, early in my career, versus try it in 5 years when I would have to quit my job, whatever job I would have got. And, it's hard to learn trading when you don't have the time to sit at the screens all day. Like screen time is just such a big thing.
That's really important though, that you had supportive parents that were okay with you not looking for a job. Not that it's really their, it's up to them what you do, but I think having supportive parents or a support group around you really is important.
Yeah, and I owe it all to them. I wasn't really making the money to live on my own, and I'm still here at my parents' house, living with my parents, mostly because I am not buying a house in this market.
Yeah, I
But
feel you on
as
that.
everyone else is stuck in the same situation,
Yeah.
all my friends are the same exact way.
Yep.
And those who aren't are renting for like, 1 bedroom apartments for like 2,200 a month. Like it's kind of crazy. I'd rather save that money and ideally buy a house of cash or mostly cash and pay it off as quick as I can if the mortgage rates stay this way. So that's the goal.
Any other, like, as far as the future goes, I guess you kind of touched on it there with the house stuff, but any other goals for the future as far as trading or just life?
Just really just buy a house and eventually be debt free. I still have my college loan that I have to pay off. I've kind of just been waiting until interest restarts, just because why pay it off when there's literally no interest, when I could
Yeah.
be putting my money in like a savings or in the market and getting money that way.
Right.
So I'll be paying that off, pay my car off. Which the only reason I haven't done that is because what is it, the
APR.
the APR on my car is less than the APY in my savings account. So why would I take money out of my savings account to pay off the car when I could be just keeping it in the savings account and actually making money by not paying off my car?
Yep. Well, that's awesome, man. It sounds like you got a bright future ahead of you. I'm definitely gonna continue to follow your success on Twitter. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch or follow your journey?
Yeah, that Twitter is really the only social media I have for trading. The other ones are my personal social media accounts. It's Daytrader Dex at Daytrader Dex, and
Awesome.
that's pretty much what I post on with stocks.
So we'll have that link in the description below.
All right.
And thanks for coming on the podcast, man. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.